read them and share together as we discuss this thing concerning how to raise the next generational leaders. So as we wait for your feedback too, we'll continue on. Thank you guys for let me just read one or two comments here and then we can go on. Thank you, Momo. Good to see you, gentlemen. Thanks for having this great man of God on the show. Thank you so much, Momo. It's good to see all of you who are watching, Linton, Alex, Neraya. Invitation, expectation, information, imitation. She's put that down as something that we mentioned as a way of, how to raise the next generation leaders. Lady Grace, Pastor Grace, great insights. Asante, thank you for watching. Jorim, thank you for watching. And Lewis, Kevin Keegan, Odero, Benson Oluoch, come listen to your longtime friend, Pastor Richie. Someone is inviting others. That's good for you. I mean, that's good, my brother. Lewis, honor is developed. Benson was invited and he is here. Thank you for watching. Zipporah, thank you for watching. Benson Oluoch, influence is a key quality. Great insights from Alex Gidinji. Thank you very much. Again, Neraya, very profound. Love the way you have handled the issue of honor. We appreciate. Keep your feedback coming as we continue to look at this very critical subject matter in our day and time. So we are talking about the heart before we continue on. Is there anything else you would want to add?
Yeah, I want to add, there are many things that we can throw in there. I mean, John chapter 13 is very instructive. It talks about a quality that is very hard and can be a bit of a challenge to develop such a quality. It's called humility. Okay, it's one of those things that is talked about, but we don't, really think seriously about. Jesus does something very interesting in John chapter 13, which people talk about, but I don't know if we are really ready to embrace that heart. He gets into a place where they're going to have dinner with his disciples. And the Bible says he knows certain things. If you read that, the progression of that scripture, knowing that he has come from the Father, knowing that God has put everything in his hands, knowing that he's going to the Father. I mean, there are the things he knew. But then that did not stop him. He takes the towel, and that role was a role that was specifically for the lowest of servants. Whenever people came into a homestead, the recruit, the newest recruit in terms of the subordinate staff, was the one who was told, take the towel and wash the feet, because those days they did not have tarmac. It was dust. And they would sit in a place where they would eat together. They didn't have dinner table. They would sit on the ground with cushions, and so you don't want people with dusty, smelly feet. And so wash the feet. So this was the task for the lowest of servants. Jesus, before that task can be assigned, Jesus quickly rushes and takes. That's why even Peter refused. They said, no, you can't wash me. Because that was very demeaning. But that tells you the heart of Jesus, the willingness. Because sometimes for you to be able to get some leaders to a particular level, you may need to transact with them at moments when they are at their worst, and be able to wash their feet, wash the dust. A lot of great leaders, these guys who came to join David, they had issues.
They are depressed.
They were being looked for by banks. They
had all manner of issues.
DCI was looking for them. And
the,
even
the
the
kind
ones
of
that
guys you don't want to
you
associate.
don't want to associate with. And even the guys that came around Jesus, the Peter, John, James, we think they are nice guys, but these were not. Some of them were, like I said in one of the shows here, some of them were part of the vigilante group that was, a terror group. They were terrorists, sons of thunder, and Jesus, tax collectors. Nowadays Kenyans now can understand why tax collectors were hated. Matthew and the rest. But Jesus is saying even prostitutes. But you see, he washes their feet. And that's very instructive about humility. Humility, if you're going to raise a next generation, you've got to really, because sometimes you have to humble yourself and listen to them, humble yourself and allow them to give you feedback, humble yourself, because humility will be critical.
You're saying allow them to give you feedback. That's a difficult part. Huh?
That's the real test of humility.
Are we sure we are really ready for feedback?
No, even me who's sitting here, sometimes I'm given feedback and I really struggle.
Because it's an easy concept to say, but practice is the challenge.
Yeah, thing altogether.
Yeah, because sometimes when you get feedback that you don't like, you begin to look at that person in a funny way.
And Jesus, you could see that play of him receiving feedback. Sometimes the feedback was off and he rebuked them.
Yes.
And sometimes the feedback was good and he, flesh and blood. Look at his play with Peter.
Yes.
At one point the feedback is good.
Yeah.
You are the Son of the Most High God. So flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. But then he says, Jesus, this thing of you saying you're going to be crucified, this thing, and then Jesus says, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And that play.
And it's shortly after this other one.
Yeah. And that's what leads me to another part of the heart of a leader who will raise the next generation. I will take it from John chapter 1 verse 17. It says, Moses came with the law and all this, but then Jesus came with grace and truth. And that really defines that heart, the heart of this person who raises the next generation. There's a measure of grace and truth. And that's what we see with those two statements, and we see with Jesus when he's handling these people that are coming to him. There's a lot of grace, but then he does not shy to tell them the truth. And so that tension.
So he extended grace.
Yes.
But he was firm with the truth.
Firm with the truth. And so that balance needs to be very loud. Needs to be very loud. But it's a tension that you must hold. A tension where you are willing to have candid conversations with the people you are leading.
Yes.
And candor is that place where you now balance these two. You are like, they should be those who are coming, who I'm raising as next generation, should be so aware that of the grace that I'm extending to them. They should be so aware of it. They should see it in the way I talk with them, I handle them. It should be so loud.
It should not be in my speech, but it is not something they experience.
Yeah, it should be so loud in all those actions, speech, that when the time when comes and I have to remove the knife and do some surgery, they should be able to say, like Job, though you slay me,
I will
still trust you. Because they
know you have good intentions.
Yeah, I mean, they may doubt what your hands are doing at some point, but they know your heart. And it's something that every leader must. Have I invested heavily in especially in grace, that I can be able to I can be able to come with the truth. It's like coming with a knife and a towel.
I'm hearing you. Have I invested in grace for me to be able to come with the truth?
Yes.
It's like what John Maxwell says, connect with the heart before you ask for the hand.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And
that has to be very loud in the way when people remember you, when people think about how you've handled them, they should be, wow. There's a small book I'm trying to remember the title of that book. It says self-deception. The book is called I think self-deception, something about self-deception.
The art of
self-deception. Yeah. But then in that book, somebody talks about how a certain leader impacted them. This leader was a leader of a big multinational corporation, and so this person was given a chance to sit in one of the boards, which was a great privilege. He's a younger person, very inexperienced, but he has now a chance to sit. These are people who are sitting there before. He has seen in newspapers, he has read about them, seen on TV, and he's just totally intimidated. And he was given a task that would allow him to sit at that board.
Yes.
And so in the second meeting, he came late. And he was supposed to do a presentation. He just got caught up. I mean, things were crazy. And he got caught up and he came late and he sat down and people were just looking at him. And then he was given a chance to give his presentation. But then he fumbled. Of course, if you're late and all this,
you're panicked.
You're intimidated by all these people. He panicked and it did not go very well. Okay? So when the meeting was, so the CEO told him, it's okay. Don't. He asked the next line supervisor, can you tell a little bit about what he's trying to say? And so the guy explained and all that, and so he was never allowed to talk for the rest of the meeting. You can imagine, he is now sweating inside. It's like, this is how you get fired. I mean, then when the meeting ended, the main man, this is a guru, you don't get a chance to meet with this guy anyhowly. He walked across, this man was wondering, why is it that people are not leaving? But it's because they allow him to leave first. He walked across and came to where the young man was, and he held his hand, and he said, let's walk together. And they walked together out of the meeting. Say, where is your office? So they walked all the way to his office. He asked, how is your home? How is everything? What's the name of your wife? Do you have children? And just he did not mention anything about the meeting until they got to his desk. When they got to his desk, he said, you look like a promising young person. Then he put his hand over his shoulders. He said, never come late to my meetings again. Never come late, never come unprepared. Then he patted him on the back.
And that was it.
And he left. That impacted him. You can be sure he was coming 1 hour before the meeting. But you see a play of grace and truth there. You see a play.
I love that aspect of grace and truth. Now, so we are talking about, you alluded to the question of invitation, information, imitation, and innovation. And we said we want to kind of dig in a little into invitation. Now that we know, we need to raise the next generation of leaders. What does invitation look like?
There's a matrix we talk about when we talk about raising leaders. We do some training on leadership, and there's a matrix we say this is an important matrix. It's connected to grace and truth. It's connected to this whole process. It's a one side of the matrix talks about high challenge. I think there's one high challenge, there's one high invitation. High challenge, high invitation, and we say that when there is high challenge and there is low invitation, or when there is, when there is high invitation and low challenge, people become cozy. And they don't, develop themselves. They become lazy. They
get comfortable in their comfort zone.
Yeah, because there's high invitation. Guys get comfortable. Let's not sweat about it. You just do the thing the way you want to. It's okay. We accept you the way you are. Stay the way you are. People don't grow, so it becomes cozy. But when there is, then there is a high, there is low invitation. And then there is low challenge. People just don't grow. I mean, they die. you know, because that's not a place you want to be in.
Yes.
I mean, it's people just...
There is no invitation. If you come, you come.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I mean, it's up to you.
They don't care about you, and then they don't challenge you.
Yes.
You
No
die.
accountability,
No
challenge.
accountability. You will
nothing.
just die. If you're in such an environment, just leave. You don't even need the voice of God to leave. Just leave. But then there is a place of high challenge, low invitation. This is a place of pressure, a place of you're pushed. People are more concerned about the deliverables, targets, meetings that are just about targets and about work and about deliverables and all that. So it is high challenge, low invitation, but nobody cares. Nobody even cares to know where you stay. They don't even know if you have a wife or a husband. I mean, there is you deliver to co-works. You know, they don't care. So that place becomes a place of frustration. There's a lot of frustration that takes place there. But then the place of high invitation and high challenge becomes a place of growth and empowerment.
So high invitation, high challenge.
High challenge. And let me talk a little bit about the invitation space, because I really feel those things we've talked about. You know, high invitation, I've used the word grace and truth.
Yes.
Grace is probably the foundation. Because it really helps you to invite, it helps you to know how to pass on information, it helps you to be at the place where you can model and allow them to see what you're modeling for them to imitate, and it more so allows you to release them. To innovate, because I would really want people to do things the way I would really want the young preachers that I'm training in church to preach the way I preach, because it's the best way to preach. But then they may come and they want to preach differently. You know, we gave a chance to our young people to lead us last Sunday in our church, to lead us, and they did things differently. You know, we were like, now where is this service going? You know, there's an interview, then after the interview there's a play, then after this there is what? We're like, okay, what's going on here? But we knew the thing is we can't be quick to criticize, because that's not the way we have done things. I would want worship to go for 1 hour, and then we just soak in the presence of the Lord. Then I now share the word. You know, yes, the values have to be upheld, but then the practice can change, and grace comes in allowing for us to successfully raise next generation. We must allow them to innovate, and it takes grace to allow them to innovate, because they will.
I think you need to emphasize that it takes grace to allow them to innovate.
Yeah, they will come with skinny and torn jeans to preach. What will you do? And the way I see you preach in a suit. In a suit, you're always in a suit, Reverend Albert. I don't know if now you know, the guys you are raising, Akina Lewis, come to preach in a skinny jeans, and I'm hoping that Lewis, you're not coming with a skinny jeans to preach.
You know, we had an interesting debate with the men sometime recently, where, you know, we have the younger ones and the older ones, and they were discussing dress code for their day.
Oh Lord!
And the younger ones had a style that I was not sure I could wear, and the older ones were like, no, we want to stick to the traditional way. So I know what you're saying. Yeah, so and it will not just be, clothing is one aspect, it will be in different other areas that they may want to lead differently. Where truth comes, is you must be very clear about your values. You must be very clear about your values. Then don't fight a lot about practice. Unless it begins to infringe. So be clear with values, don't fight on practice. Don't fight on practice, but be clear with values. I mean, these guys, there's a church I used to pastor, and young people would even want to do a rap. I mean, we are worshiping. We're in the midst of a worship song, and then I hear somebody beginning to rap. I'm like, what is this? The Holy Spirit will go away. Oh my God. So the guy starts to rap slowly, but then the rap goes on, and you hear they're just talking the word. They're declaring the word in the atmosphere. They're declaring the word in the atmosphere. And it's becoming prophetic. It's becoming prophetic. I'm like, wow, come on, let's do this next time. And but my generation will not understand that, because you have associated rap
with, you know, people saying vulgar things. And innovation, we should be very gracious with innovation, but in terms of practice, but not so. The only thing I would emphasize with them, I would say, okay, you guys can innovate with this thing, but please make sure we are edified, make sure we are talking the word of God here, make sure that we are maintaining certain principles and values that we have. We cannot become vulgar.
There are some irreducible minimums.
There are irreducible minimums, and that's when it comes to values. But do we know our values? Have we clarified our values? Have we passed on our values? Is it clear? Is it loud? Have we preached about it over and over again until
part of raising the next generation is being able to be clear, clarify, teach the values. And
that place of information and imitation, that's where you really have to pass on values, because they will take on your values more than they'll take on the words you tell them and all these concepts you give them. They will take on your values,
and your values is what they see you model.
That's why I'm saying, look here, if you have some very funny things going on in your private arena of life, then don't follow this thing we are suggesting.
Because
you will destroy people. Because people will not pick what you tell them, they will pick what you model. And that's very very critical. And so this grace and truth has to be very critical in terms of invitation, and in terms of even modeling. And when you model, giving you feedback, they'll give you feedback. They will ask you certain things about why you do things in a certain way. And there you need a lot of grace to explain to them. Sometimes you may just tell them, man, this is part of my shortcomings, and I hope you don't get that shortcoming. I hope you don't get this shortcoming. Please don't go my way. This is what has happened to me because of this. And I wish I did not get into these things.
And sometimes the why question can actually make you introspect and realize, by the way, why am I doing this? So it actually challenges you too.
And then now, another aspect of, and it's also connected to the heart of the leader who raises the next generation, is vulnerability. Becoming vulnerable. Jesus became vulnerable to a certain clique in that he told them in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, you know, I don't think I can pull this thing off. And he really struggled with it. And they observed him. Although they slept at some point, they observed him struggle with it. That's why they wrote about it. That he struggled. He even told God, if it's not, he was saying that in their hearing. That's why they recorded it. He was vulnerable. There's a place for becoming vulnerable. I mean, some of the moments I really remember with my bishop, my spiritual father, Bishop J.B. Masinde, there's some moments he has become very vulnerable with some of us, and we have, you know, processed things together with him, and you know, and he has told us his heart. He says, this has pained me, or this has, I wish I would have done this differently. And that's very critical when it comes to raising the next generation. However, and it takes grace again to be vulnerable. A lot of grace to be vulnerable.
Wow. It takes grace to allow people to innovate. It takes grace to be vulnerable. Wow. It takes grace to model, to be able to, serve people who are below you.
To wash their feet.
To wash their feet. You know, to deal with their mess. It takes grace.
It takes grace for you to receive feedback.
It takes grace to receive feedback.
And that's very critical. Because you must begin to understand their language, and they're the ones who will teach you their language. They're the ones who will teach you what makes the difference for them. In fact, how you can effectively, you know, set them up. Part of it comes from the feedback they give you, and you need to listen.
So all that is in the space of invitation, where you're talking about access.
It rests highly on high invitation.
Yes.
Let me connect it with God is dealing with us, how Jesus taught us to relate with the Father.
Yeah.
He taught us to relate with the Father in the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
Matthew chapter 6. He says, this is how you should pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Then he says, your kingdom come. He says, you need to relate with him as a father, which is a place of high invitation.
Yes.
Before you begin even relating with him as in the place of challenge. Kingdom talks more about challenge, about, you know, conquering and all this challenge. It says you need to relate more with him in that, and then you can relate with this.
Yeah.
So the place of high invitation is very critical. The place of grace is very critical, because it now gives you the permission to be able to now advance truth, to be able to advance some of these tough things, to have difficult conversations with these people, because then they trust you. And this thing
so
of
that dynamic and tension of grace and truth builds trust.
It builds trust. And this let me call it, this game of raising the next generation of leaders boils down to trust. The average next gen person will come in your space. Let's talk about those who are 30 and below, or 35 and below. I'm talking like that because I'm 50.
Yes.
Those who are 35 and below, most of them will come with a lot of trust issues. We are talking about current situations. They will come with trust issues.
Trust because they have been taken advantage of, misused.
They have observed others being taken advantage of. They have, even in their very homes, we have a crisis of fatherhood, that because fatherhood has not been modeled very well. And so they will come with a trust deficit. And so you've got to really invest.
So you're beginning almost like from the back foot. You know, you need to build trust. Yeah, for you to be able to help them, they need to trust you. Yes.
They need to trust you so that you can have certain conversations with them. I'm not saying you compromise with them. There's a way you can handle them with grace without necessarily having to compromise. And I pray God will give us the wisdom for that. Yes.
Wow. Amazing conversation here on you know, raising the next generational leaders, and we are learning a lot about you know, how to invite people into our space and be able to you know, build trust by extending grace and sharing truth, or the balance or the tension, how to handle that tension will help you build trust in the people that you are raising, so that you can be able to prepare them for greater, for better, which is the mandate God has given us. And so, you know, I continue to encourage us to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much for the comments I'm seeing. I can see Neraya has put in quite a lot and learning a lot. Are we clear about our vision? I mean, are our values clear and taught? Imitation part, you need to be careful as they take on your values. Grace and truth is important for invitation and modeling. Thank you so much, Neraya, for your thoughts and your comments, and everybody else for your thoughts and your comments. And so, as a parting shot, you know, 1 hour has just gone like that, and I feel like we are still not yet at the place of exhaustively dealing with the subject, and so I believe we'll have a part 3 someday. But as a parting shot today,
David talks about children being a heritage. He's talking about next generation.
Yes.
He says, blessed is a man who has a quiver full of them, you know, and that is very instructive about, you know, next generation being our heritage. And him using the symbolism of a quiver.
Yes.
Because a quiver is where you put arrows.
Yes.
And those arrows, you put them in a bow and you shoot them to go ahead of you. My challenge to all of us who are in leadership position,
yes,
your arrows are the people that you are coming up under you. How will you be able to shoot them into the future? The best way to shoot them into the future is that tension, because the bigger, the greater the tension in the bow and the arrow, the farther they go. Can we invest in that tension of grace and truth? and invest in that tension and pull it to the farthest you can, so that when you release them, they go farther than you could. And Jesus did that. He pulled that tension of grace and truth. And by the time he's releasing Peter and the rest, my goodness, the world was turned upside down.
Wow.
May that be our story as we raise those who are coming up after us. Yeah.
What a good place to end this show, with that analogy of the, arrow, being able to, invest in this tension between grace and truth. Thank you so much, Rev, for being able to be here with us. Such an honor, and for downloading to us a lot of truth. And thank you for watching and being part of this show. God bless you so much. See you next week, same time, same place.